Hey guys, this is Mike
And Joe.
from Deepwood Force of Will.
Deepwood.
And we saw the success of our last video being that everybody wanted to see deck profiles on the top 5 decks of the current meta, Alice Cluster format. But we decided instead, we'll definitely put up some deck profiles for this, but it's for better information for newer players and people who want to learn a little bit more about each ruler and each deck. We're actually going to go into sort of a deck tech or deck detective type thing, where we'll just go over some of the major talking points of each deck and what the pros are, what the cons are, and what some of the big choices are.
Basically, instead of giving you something to net deck, we're going to give you a skeleton of the deck. Basically, that we're not going to hit every single point on the deck, all 40 cards, but we'll give you the main points on the deck that really makes it good, and then you can flex in and out how you like to play into the rest of the deck.
So Joe here is going to talk about the rule that he's got the most expertise in.
Yep, Songstress of Shangri-La, aka Shion, Coup d'etat, Mastermind.
Right, so Joe, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Alright, so first off we got the ruler. She's 3 mana to judgment, 1 water, and it's you may look at the top card of your deck at any point. That doesn't use the chase, so no matter what your opponent says, as long as she or her J-Roller side is alive, you can just look at the top card of your deck. If you trigger something that requires you to say something about the top card of your deck, you can look at the top card of your deck and then say it. There is nothing wrong with that. Your opponent can't say anything about it. So first off, we're going to talk about her stones. This is obviously the base for how her setup works. So with the newest Vingolf, we got Dark Depths, so we'll go into that eventually. But first we'll talk about her Memoria. Hymnal's Memoria is when it enters the field, you call the name of the top card of your deck. And if you call it right, you get to draw it to your hand. If you're not playing Shion, or let's say you have an Astro Ruler, it comes in rested, so you gotta be a little bit careful of that. Also, because Shion is really good with Regalia, her Hydromonica is amazing. We'll talk about that next. Ruler's Memoria is a big deal for her, so you'll see that a lot. And most of the most pronounced variants, the most successful ones, have been running blue-black, so that's why we have Dark Depths here. You'll see varying amounts of hymnals in the blue-black variants. Most of the black ones like to run black 1-drops, so the more hymnals you have, the higher chance you have to whiff on your black 1-drop, but hymnals allows you to draw a card, so it's pretty important in that regard, and it's something that makes Shion pretty powerful because you get an extra draw phase every once in a while when you're tapping for stone. The next thing I want to talk about is the reason why you play blue-black Shion is the thing behind the 1-mana black cards like Soul Hunt, Barrier of Shadows, and stuff like that is that they're either neutral or a -1 when you play them, and Hymnal's Memoria allows you to refill your hand because you get that extra draw, so that makes it a little bit more powerful than the average deck. So let's show off the Regalia now. Alright, so we've got Hydromonica, and the other one that you'll see a lot is Levitine, but a lot of decks play Levitine, so it's just here for show. Hydromonica basically says put the top card of your deck, you can tap it to put the top card of your deck on the bottom of your deck, and you can also tap it and pay 1 and banish it, and that allows you to top deck whatever card you want. Pretty much search any card you want, which is really good, but most of the time you're just going to want to combo that with Shion's Judgment. Another thing to compare it to is Hydromonica is really comparable to Reflect. Reflect has that sculpt ability that's really strong on turn 1, which allows you to draw a card and then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. Obviously the sculpt is a little bit more powerful, but the Hydromonica allows you to mimic that effect a little bit while still having a potent J-Roller side. So next up I'm going to show you the real reason you play Shion, the cheaty face. So here's Celestial Wing Seraph and Lucifer. That is the main thing that you're going to want to go for. It's 19 worth of stats off your judgment, along with your opponent has to banish a card, and you get 2 flyers. So it's a really powerful temple play. It can be done on turn 4, on turn 3 if you ramp it, if you use that type of thing, but we haven't really seen that type of thing that much. But these 2 cards are really strong in their own regard. We haven't really seen them too recently because Shion has been topping. There's another variant that we'll be talking about soon. Other cards you'll see be cheaty faced in is Arthur Pendragon, 5 mana, 12/12. It has immunity to darkness and fire effects, and you can tap it to gain 800 defense. And when he's tapped, all Resonators have to attack into him. There's no question about it. The only thing that they can do is, let's say with Lancelot, they can attack with something so that all their attackers are done, and declare that they're void on their attack phases for the rest of the turn, which means that they can no longer declare battle phases, which means that they don't have to attack anymore. They actually can't attack. So that way they can rebuild their board and then try to clear it next turn. Last card is Valentina, a 4-drop that allows you to steal an opponent's Resonator. Pretty good. Just remember that if Valentina winds up leaving the field beyond that point, they get their Resonator back, so it's best to combine her with Levitine. Next up, we'll be talking about the black 1-drops. What I was trying to touch on earlier when we were talking about the blue-black. So these are the cards that will allow you to get an early hand advantage in the early game, sort of similar to how Stealth operates if you've seen that deck as of recently. So Barrier slows down your opponent, especially if they're playing Reflect. You don't want them accumulating too many counters. You'll wind up losing value in the late game. And also it stops fast rulers from getting their judgments off earlier. Scorn gives you access to their hand in the early game. Pick out a Resonator that they picked in their early game and discard it. And Soul Hunt takes away 2 options from both players as long as they have a Resonator on board. And, well, 2-ish options. You know, there's a little bit of variance on that based on board states, but basically it's going to let you take away cards from your opponent, like the Hymnals, bring you back up in card advantage, and give you a nice little starting advantage in the early game. Beyond that, from your 1-drops, you got 2-drops and beyond. You've got Hera's Muse, Space-Time Anomaly, and Valentina, Possessor Princess of Love. Of course, that's also Prissy on the front, but we just wanted to show off the blue side. So, the reason why you won't see Muse that much anymore is that it's a 4/6 that just dies. It just draw a card. The effect's pretty good. You know, if a Resonator takes less damage than the amount of its defense, the damage is negated. But it's really not that great in the format with cards like Melder and Lancelot ruling the day, so that type of effect won't really do that much. I mean, it's good against Demon Flame and like the Flame Sprite combo, but not that great. Hera, on the other hand, is just a fantastic card. You can get people mana stuck since a lot of people love to play Ruler's Memoria. We have Space-Time Anomaly, which is 2 mana, deal -5/-5 to a Resonator until end of turn and draw a card. And it has Remnant, so you get to use it twice. It's a lot of value in one card, and it's pretty powerful because of that. Last but not least, we have Valentina. Valentina is superb at making people uncomfortable in their board state. They must clear it before playing something big, or they have like a Levitine or something. Basically, she's going to either kill something or take something. Either situation is, when she's leaving the board, it's going to be bad for your opponent. Just as a side note, you cannot search this card out of your main deck if you're using like the 12 Apostle variant, which I'll be talking about next. It's considered a beast in the main deck because Prissy is a beast. You cannot have this card face up in your main deck as Valentina. Shame, but that's how it goes. From there, I'm going to talk about the 12 Apostle variant. So this variant saw a lot of play when Battle for Atrakia first came out. Reason being is that Gil is a very strong card on his own. He's a little slow, but with the removal pressure that Shion has that in the early game and the card draw and her amazing ability to play a down really well, it made the deck function fairly well, and then Gil, with his kill power, allowed her to stay in the metagame for a little bit until we got the Dual Stones back and a lot more consistency got added back into the game. So Gil's pretty cool. He allows you to search a 12 Apostle on this side. His flip side, his Shift, allows you to play a 12 Apostle from your hand, give it Swiftness for free. So that's really strong, gets done a lot of damage, especially against certain decks if you steal a Swiftness Resonator. We also have Izanami. Izanami is another one of those cards that allows you to just take threats out of their hand. It's a good 2-for-1 card since it's premium stats on a 2-mana body. And then we have Adam Brawley, which is a 6/8. Blue is a great effect for Adam Brawley since it's draw a card. 3-mana 6/8 draw a card is a good card, and you don't even have to pay the 3 mana for it. So you get a lot of value out of that. And the black out of Shion, which is your opponent loses 400 health, is really good against Tree, and that's kept Tree out of the metagame for a while. So at this point, you're probably wondering, so how do I beat Shion? The main side options that you want to look for are these cards. They have they have different interactions with the deck, but they are all pretty powerful in their own right. First off, we'll talk about Horn of Sacred Beast. Horn is the main effect that you're going to be looking for is banish this card. Target player shuffles their graveyard into their deck. When their graveyard goes into their deck, you ruin the top card of the deck. So if they go to banish off with Hydromonica, before they go to when they put their Judgment on the chase, you tap off the Horn of Sacred Beast and shuffle their graveyard back into their deck, causing them to get a random card off the top of their deck, kind of messing with Shion's Judgment. So if you're playing Shion, you're going to want to play Hera into the Horn first before you try and Judgment or anything. It's just something to play around. Next up is Black Moonbeam. This has really hurt Shion's playability, and it's why I haven't played too much of her since Battle for Atarakta came out. Not a fan of this card, but it's what it does. It's a burden on the metagame currently, but hopefully we've been trying to make ways to play around it, like with Secluded Refuge. From there, we also have Prison in the Lunar Lake. This is a newer tech card ever since the Dual Stones came back and allowed us to play Dark Depths and those types of cards again, which allows us to put more Water Stones back in. Basically, this card's is trying to cancel your Enters, your Big Enter, Celestial Wing Seraph. If it does that, it can also negate Shion's Judgment, because Shion will come in, try and bring out the Celestial Wing Seraph, unless Celestial Wing Seraph will get its Enter canceled and she'll get destroyed, basically leaving you with a 9/10 for 3 mana, which is not as good as it could be. Last but not least is Death Scythe. It stops Shion from being able to get her Imperishable and flipping back over to her Ruler's side and doing all the shenanigans again with Ruler with Judgments and such. But overall, she has ways to try and survive against Death Scythe. Of course, she main decks a lot of Heras to try and get rid of Death Scythe, so you got to keep a lookout for that. There's also other side options, but we just picked out the 4 main ones that you can look for if you're having problems with Shions at your locals or in the metagame. So last but not least, I'm going to show you a little bit of a combo of how you would get away with doing this. So we've got an opening hand of Hydromonica. We're going to take some 2-drop. We'll take 2 2-drops. A Hydromonica, and that's it. That's basically the only thing you need to open up with. The Hydromonica is just the big deal of how you're supposed to do it. So you tap for stone, you play the Hydromonica, tap for stone. Big thing about Hydromonica, what you want to do is every time so you get 2 chances to use Hydromonica during each turn to get the most value out of it. You during your opponent's end turn, right before you're about to draw, check the top card of your deck, see if you want that card in your hand or not. If not, you tap the Hydromonica, put that card at the bottom, and then draw it, and then draw your next one. If you do want it, draw it, then before you go to untap everything, check the top card of your deck. If you want that card up on top of your deck, leave it there. Otherwise, tap the Hydromonica, put it at the bottom, then let everything untap. This way you get more chances to use Hydromonica, and you don't let it sit there. I see a lot of people leave Hydromonica untapped. I don't know if they have like perfect cards at the top of their deck all the time, but good for them that they do. I know that I need to tap Hydromonica a lot to get to the draws I need. So, 1, maybe you'll play a Scorn or something, tap that. Turn 2, you play a Hera, clear off a Regalia. And then turn 3, you're going to play another 2-drop. But you don't want to play a 3-drop here, because the big thing is you want to get set up. You have 3 stones open on turn after your 3rd tap, and then you're going into turn 4. So on tap for turn, so you have 2 stones tapped on turn 3, and you're going in towards your turn 4. You let yourself draw for turn, then you're gonna tap this, tap the stone, banish this off, and then you're going to pick up whatever card you want off the top of your deck. Mainly, you're going to be looking for Celestial Wing Seraph, put that on top, let everything untap. You have 3 stones open, go for Judgment, hit the Celestial Wing Seraph, hit the Lucifer, and you've got yourself a pretty good board from there. So, that's pretty much Shion. Let me know in the comments what you want to see out of Shion. I can do a full deck profile at some point, otherwise we'll probably just link a bunch of topping decks that went off recently. The 12 Apostle build doesn't really like cheating facing as much. It doesn't really have that many good targets, but it's got different combos in its own right. So that's that. Mike, you want to close it out?
Yeah. So Obviously, Shion is a clearly powerful ruler. She's got a lot of cool combos, but obviously less consistent than Reflect, but you trade that consistency for the big power play you're going to end up doing in the late game. So, this has been a little deck tech on Shion. Let us know what else you'd like to see, and we hope these tips help you. This has been Mike.
And Joe.
From Deepwood Force of Will, signing out.
Like, comment, subscribe.